We've got the next video in the Understanding the Officer video series, and today we are still covering another Generation 1 officer. We are working through every single Generation 1 officer, and then we will transition to Generation 2, 3, and eventually 4 officers. But this officer that we're going to be discussing today is quite possibly the most underrated Generation 1 officer in all of Warpath. Welcome back. I hope you are all doing wonderful. I hope life is going well. Like I said, we've got the next video in the Understanding the Officer series. This is going to be an exciting one because this is arguably the most underrated Generation 1 officer in Warpath, if not the most underrated officer in all of Warpath out of all different generations of officers. But before we jump in and start talking, if you enjoyed this video, want to see more videos like this in the future, make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel if you are not already so you don't miss any future uploads. Let's try to get this video to at least 100 likes. Now, without further ado, let's go ahead and jump in, start talking about which officer it is. It may be a surprise to some, it's probably not a surprise to others, but War Machine is the officer we're talking about, and this guy is a monster. He is somebody that is so unbelievably underrated and undervalued, and honestly, for a long time after I started playing the game, for the first few months, I did not even realize the value of War Machine. Now, that was shortly after the game first released, so we were still all learning the mechanics of the game. Nobody knew if firepower was better, damage was better, all of these different things at that time, so I have to give myself a little bit of grace there, but nonetheless, I still underrated and undervalued this guy. A lot of you do as well, and he is a freaking monster, especially for being a Generation 1 officer. He is one of only a few Generation 1 officers that truly survived the test of time and are still valuable and relevant even in the current late stages of the game. Now, starting out of the gate, his first skill, his tactical skill, his damage coefficient is 1300. Now, that is not up to par with a lot of the officers today, or the more updated or newer, more modern officers, whatever you want to call them. Pretty much the standard baseline for damage coefficient for Generation 3 and beyond officers is 1500. But for Generation 1 officers, this 1300 damage coefficient was incredible. That was towards the top end of damage coefficients for Generation 1 officers. And it's still good enough to keep itself relevant in the later stages of the game, but not because of its damage coefficient alone. Because of War Machine's next 3 skills, his 3 passive skills are just incredible. His second skill increases the damage of this officer's troop by 15%. He is a versatile officer, so he goes well on quite literally anything. There are a lot of officers that are tagged like versatile, but they're kind of like tank officers or artillery officers, like whatever, but they're not really as versatile as you would assume a versatile officer actually would be. But War Machine is the exception to that rule. He goes well on tanks. He goes well on artillery. He goes well on infantry. There's nothing War Machine doesn't do well, and there's no unit type he does not pair well with. And as pretty much everybody who's played this game for any length of time knows now, damage is the most sought-after offensive skill in the game. Anytime you can increase the damage of an officer/unit, you absolutely want to make sure to do that. And so this 15%, while it's nothing mind-blowing, and there are officers with higher amounts of damage, 15% damage is nothing to snooze at. His third skill increases the firepower of this officer's troop by 20%. We know, like I've said already, damage is more valuable than firepower alone, but being able to piggyback one off of the other on one single officer is never a bad thing. So you've got a 15% damage buff and a 20% firepower buff. That just means he's dishing out way more overall damage, and he is going to be that much more lethal in combat. And his fourth skill, which is a special skill, which is arguably still one of the most sought after skills in general, but especially special skills for any officer in the game, is his load time reduction of 10%. He reduces the load time of the officer's troop by 10%, and that is super helpful at every single stage of the game and regardless of whatever troop type it is placed on. And then his 5th and awakened skill, the verbiage is exactly the same. Pelts the enemy with continuous machine gun fire, dealing damage to an enemy. Damage coefficient is going to stay at 1300 and reduces the load time of this officer's troop by 10%. The difference being, though, that when he is not fully awakened, that happens for 4 seconds. When he is awakened, that doubles and goes to 8 seconds. So, like I said, across the board, War Machine, just in his pure raw form, is a freaking monster. But there's something even better that adds to the value of War Machine in addition to just his really well-rounded quality skills, because none of them are just off the charts with the exception of the 10% load time reduction. That's obviously incredibly valuable, even as just a standalone skill. But his skills across the board are not just really mind-blowing, but they're just consistently good. And that consistently, that kind of that old saying, slow and steady wins the race. He's just consistently good in any and everything he does, and he's just continued to find his way into people's lineups no matter what new officers are released, and it's pretty cool to see. But where I'm going with this next big value add from War Machine is you can awaken him without investing even a single golden officer statue. If you come over to your Alliance store, you can see there are 2 different War Machine statue options. You can get up to 20 War Machine statues for completely free every single week, and all you need are contribution coins. I mean, we're talking 20 statues every single week. You can unlock and awaken him very, very fast. Now, unlike Percy, who has her own kind of system, and I've covered Percy in other videos, so if you are newer to Warpath and want to check out and kind of see and understand a little bit more in depth about how the Percy system works, go check out those videos specifically. But in regards to War Machine, you can, of course, contribute Universal Golden Officer statues to War Machine to awaken him even faster, but I would suggest not doing that. I would stick with buying, when able, these 20 War Machine statues every single week, and you will awaken him and level his skills up much faster than you even think you will. So again, like I said, just the fact that you can get his statues, 20 of them, for free from the Alliance store every single week, and you can awaken him just by doing that, and you don't have to contribute any Universal Golden Officer statues to him, makes him that much more valuable. He would still be very valuable even if you didn't get 20 free statues for him every single week, but the fact you do makes him just that much more sought after. There's not really a whole lot to cover with War Machine specifically. Like I said, he is just a very well-rounded, versatile officer. Whether you need him on a tank, an artillery, an anti-tank gun, an infantry, whatever you need him on or whatever you want him on, he is going to do very well in that role, period, the end. And he is absolutely an officer that you need to prioritize from day one in Warpath. But like I said, just make sure you're always buying as many of those War Machine statues from your Alliance store as you can every single week, but make sure you're not spending golden Universal Officer statues on him. Slow and steady wins the race, and War Machine absolutely wins the race. With that being said, let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments. If you like War Machine, let me know. If you don't, for whatever reason, I can't imagine why you wouldn't, but if there are some of you, because there are some of you, to be fair, that have just really odd ideas, to be as polite as I possibly can about it. You got some odd ideas about some things, so if there are a few of you lingering around that for whatever reason do not like War Machine, let me know why in the comments, and I would be very interested to hear your reasoning behind that. If you have made it this far into the video, if you have got access to Discord and are not already in our community Discord server, the link to that is going to be in the description of the video below. Click on that link. It'll take you right into the community Discord server. Whether you are a new player and just have some questions, want to learn some more, whether you're a veteran player and just want to come hang out, talk, get to know some new people in the community, doesn't matter. Absolutely everybody is welcome. As always, thanks for taking the time to watch the video today. We'll see you all on the next one.